Growing up, I was always the invisible one. My brother, Brian, was the golden child, straight A's, captain of the football team, dad's favorite fishing buddy. Me? I was the kid who stayed in his room, tinkering with old computers and dreaming about starting something of my own. Our parents never came to my school plays or even asked how my coding competitions went. But they cheered like maniacs when Brian scored a touchdown in some meaningless game. I didn't hate him for it. At least, not at first. I just figured it was the way things were. Some kids got all the attention, some were just there. By the time we were in our 20s, Brian had taken a job under Dad at the family business, a mid-sized construction company. I had moved out and started a tech consulting firm with a couple of friends. We worked out of a basement and ate noodles 5 times a week, but we were building something. Meanwhile, Brian got the office with the view. When Dad officially retired, he handed the business over to Brian. Not even a conversation with me. Not a "what do you think?" or "are you interested?" Just a quiet announcement at a Sunday dinner where I was barely acknowledged. I remember smiling through it, nodding like it was fine. But deep down, I was gutted. It wasn't just about the business. It was about what it symbolized. I was never even considered. Years passed. My tech company grew fast. We landed government contracts, expanded into cybersecurity, and eventually sold it for millions. Quietly, without fanfare. I bought a nice place, invested smartly, and started mentoring young entrepreneurs. I still kept in touch with the family, kind of. I called Mom once a week, went to the occasional BBQ. Brian, though, kept his distance. I assumed he was still living the golden life until last month. It started with a missed call from Dad, then another, then a desperate voicemail. "Hey, it's your father. Can you call me back? It's important." I debated for hours. Eventually, I called back. He didn't waste time. "The business is in trouble," he said. "Brian's made some bad deals. We're deep in debt. We need someone with your expertise." I swear, I laughed, right into the phone. Not to be cruel, but because I didn't know how else to react. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You gave the business to Brian without ever asking me, and now, when it's falling apart, you want me to fix it?" Silence. Then, "I was wrong, okay?" Hearing those words from my father, the same man who once said, "Real men work with their hands, not with computers," was surreal. I agreed to meet, just to see what I was walking into. When I showed up at the office, it was like stepping into a disaster movie. Empty desks, stressed employees, papers everywhere. Brian was in his office, head in hands. He looked up, and for the first time in years, I saw something in his eyes I never expected. Shame. "Thanks for coming," he muttered. I took a deep breath and asked the one question I needed answered first. What the hell happened here? Brian didn't speak right away. He just stared at a spreadsheet filled with red numbers like it might magically fix itself. I sat down across from him, the silence between us loud with all the things we'd never said. Finally, he sighed. "I thought I could handle it. I really did." I raised an eyebrow. "Handle what exactly?" "Running a business or playing CEO while it collapsed?" He flinched. "I took a loan to expand into a new market. Fast homes, prefab construction. Everyone said it was the future." I nodded slowly. "And let me guess, you didn't vet the contractors or the suppliers?" "We got scammed, twice, lost over $500,000. He pulled up documents, invoices, emails, all of it a mess. No oversight, no audits, no structure. The entire company was riding on ego and borrowed time." Looked around at what used to be my dad's pride and joy. I may have never been part of it, but I'd watched it grow up alongside Brian. Now it was barely breathing. "Why didn't you ask for help earlier?" I asked. He rubbed his face. "Pride, stupidity. I thought if I could just turn it around." And, "Dad? He doesn't even come in anymore, just yells from the house." That sounded about right. I walked through the office, spoke to a few remaining employees. Most were either loyal to the family or too afraid to leave. Morale was crushed. By the end of the day, I had a diagnosis. The business was salvageable, but barely. It needed a total systems reboot, new leadership, digital infrastructure, cost-cutting, and rebuilding trust with clients and staff. I met Dad at his place that evening. He looked older than I remembered, smaller like the years had finally caught up with him. "You saw it?" he asked. "I did. And? I can fix it, but not for free, not out of family guilt." He blinked. "You want to get paid?" "No. I want control." I laid it out plain. If I was going to save this company, I wanted full authority. No more Dad hovering. No more Brian screwing up unchecked. I'd install my systems, my people, my direction. It was the first time in my life I watched my father swallow his pride. He nodded slowly. "Okay." Then I turned to Brian. "And you? If you stay, you work under me. You do what I say when I say it. No special privileges." He nodded too, but the hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. For the first time ever, he wasn't the star. I was. Taking over the business wasn't a dramatic moment with applause and tears. It was quiet. A signed agreement, a few awkward handshakes. And suddenly, the weight of the company was mine. The first week was brutal. I had to fire 3 people who were clearly dead weight, 2 of whom were Brian's close friends. I didn't hesitate. This wasn't about family anymore. It was about survival. Brian tried to push back. "You didn't have to be so cold about it." "No," I told him. But I had to be clear. I replaced the outdated software, hired a financial consultant, brought in 2 trusted project managers from my own network, and restructured all client communications. We lost 2 clients immediately. Ones Brian had promised timelines he couldn't deliver. I let them go with an apology and no discount. Reputation had to be rebuilt on accountability. Meanwhile, Dad avoided the office. He'd call occasionally, ask for updates, and try to give advice I didn't need. I kept him informed but distant. He knew he'd made a mistake. Giving Brian the business, assuming I'd never want it, never deserve it. And now he was paying. For it, Brian, to his credit, tried. He showed up early, took notes, shadowed the team. But there was a weight in his eyes, the shame of watching me fix what he'd destroyed. Our dynamic had flipped. One afternoon, we were reviewing expenses when he said, "Do you think you were always better at this? Or did I just screw it up that badly?" I looked up. "Both." He let out a breath, almost a laugh. "Fair. Despite everything. I didn't hate him. I pitied him. He was the golden child with no gold left to stand on." Within 3 months, we were breaking even. Clients had returned. One big contract came in from a connection I'd built during my freelance years. Employees were hopeful again. I even gave year-end bonuses, small ones but meaningful. At the company holiday party, Dad showed up. Quiet, distant, unsure where to stand. He came over and clapped my back. "You saved it," he said. "No," I replied. "I built it again. From the ashes you and Brian left behind." He winced but nodded. "And Brian?" He didn't say a word all night. Just watched as the staff laughed at my jokes, not his. Watched as I was the one everyone respected. 6 months into the turnaround, things looked different. The office buzzed. Again, but this time with efficiency and purpose, not chaos and excuses. I walked in one morning and overheard an employee saying, "I actually feel proud to work here now." That's when I knew it wasn't just about profits. It was about culture, reputation, respect. I gave Brian an option, either stay on as a junior partner under me or walk away with a severance. He looked shocked, maybe even hurt, but not surprised. "I thought we were rebuilding this together," he said. "No, I'm rebuilding it. You're observing." He chose to leave. Maybe it was pride, maybe guilt. I didn't care either way. I wasn't running a charity. He'd had his chance. He blew it. Dad called me 2 weeks later. I heard Brian left. "You didn't push him out, did you?" "No." I gave him a choice. There was silence. Then, "You've done good. Better than I ever expected." "That's because you never expected much from me, Dad." He started to say something, then stopped. "You're right," he admitted. That was the closest thing I ever got to an apology. My mother told me later that Dad had cried one night after seeing the quarterly report. Profits up 32%. Client retention highest in 5 years. "He said he was proud of you," she whispered, like it was a confession. I didn't care anymore. This wasn't about making Dad proud or showing Brian up. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming something that was mine all along. Not the business, but my worth, my value. The respect they refused to give me until they had no choice. Now, when people come into the office, they see my name on the door, not my dad's, not my brother's, mine. The business they once treated like an inheritance, I turned it into an empire. And now, the same father who handed it off to the wrong son sits in the front row at my keynote speeches, beaming like he always believed in me, even though we both know better.